This is our new 1970 Dodge Challenger. This was my dad's dream car ever since he was a kid, and a month ago, I surprised him with it. Now that it's in our garage, we've been storing up parts for months, and we officially have 1 month until we have to completely transform this car for SEMA 2024. Our Challenger came with the 340 4-barrel engine. Now, while this is a pretty cool engine, our mission today is to tear it out. In partnership with Meguiar's, like I told you guys, this thing is our SEMA 2024 build, and I am so freaking excited. Just number one, because I surprised my dad with it. That's the coolest part. But number two, because it's something so different that we've never done before. I mean, as you guys can see in the shop here, we have nothing like this. Our mission today is just to figure it out. Pulled engines out before, we've done engine swaps, but nothing like this. So this is a 1970 Dodge Challenger, which we're kind of hoping it's a little bit easier to get things out of here. There's not as much electronics and all of that junk to mess with, but what we're gonna be doing at the end of the video, we'll talk about this later on. Let's go ahead and get started pulling this 344 barrel out. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, I was wondering how this is gonna fit in that. It's fine, right? It's okay. We have got less than a month to do this, so we have really got to get to work. I think mission number one is gonna be getting this freaking hood out of the way, because we're gonna be pulling this. Are we pulling or are we dropping? Where'd Tim go? Are we pulling or are we dropping?
We're gonna drop.
Oh, okay, that makes it a little bit better. Anyways, we gotta get this thing out of the way. We're gonna be dropping this thing, the subframe, everything, because we got a new one of those. We got a new one of everything almost for the engine. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be good, but it's all just figuring it out. And we got some good old America sizes here. So we're definitely gonna have to rearrange our tools here to get used to this. Again, let's figure it out. Good indicator of how literally everything is about to be on this car.
Good old American steel.
Hood off. Now it's time for the fun part. With the hood out of the way, we can start tearing this thing apart. We're starting with all of the easy parts first. Up first was disconnecting the battery, and now I'm going to start getting the fluids out of the car. While I do this, Tim is working on getting all of the wiring disconnected and out of the bay. Once the radiator fluid is all out, it's time for me to get the clutch fan and radiator out of the way. Making some good progress. Tim Bro's figuring out the wiring. While he's doing all the wiring stuff, I'm getting some of the mechanical stuff off. We got the clutch fan off, and now I'm gonna go ahead and get the radiator off, and we got so much space up here. We're getting pretty dang close to be able to drop this subframe, so let's get to it. Rusty. Is that there's still coal out here? Checking things off the list. Everything from up top we think has been removed from the engine so that we can get this thing dropped. Now it's time to raise the Challenger up. We got suspension to do. We may have to adjust the steering arm from the top. We'll see, but we gotta drop the suspension and drop the subframe so that we can get this engine out of the car. So Challenger's going up. Now this is where the fun starts. This car is old. Yes, everything is simplified, but with age, sometimes these suspension arms and bushings can be a pain to remove. Wheels off, now it's time to disconnect some of the arms that are connected to the subframe so that when we loosen the subframe bolts, it'll all drop freely. 70s technology, this is weird.
Look at that welding job right there.
Good thing we got a new subframe.
Yes.
because what we got, I don't think would have held in this thing. All right, guys, we're just gonna start taking things off until it looks okay, and then we're gonna drop the subframe. It looks like I'm gonna start out with the sway bar right here, starting to get the sway bar out. It looks like we have to get all of our steering assembly out as well, but the header is like looped around the steering arm, which is gonna make it very interesting to get that out. So, and there's so many points of contact with all the different arms. It's just weird.
It's kind of like a Jeep.
You know what? Yeah. So with that, I'm gonna start zapping things off and hoping that this thing just comes right out. So wish us luck, starting with the sway bar. Oh, easy. Look at the steering linkage. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's all...
This is what steers your car right here.
And it has power steering, so it's not like...
Yeah, it's weird. This is gonna go back to our parts corner back here. Nice work. All right, that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle that we need to get the subframe out. So mission number one. Number two is going to be, we can start on the exhaust. This tin can was welded onto the car. Not chassis wise, I mean, it was literally probably welded on the car, so it's not easy at all to get out. So, suspension complete. It's time to remove the exhaust. We're gonna chop off the ends, let it drop, and get her off. This thing is... yeah. Well, exhaust is somewhat off. Very nice. We're gonna be hooking my dad up with a brand new exhaust. These are old, crusty, probably nothing left in these mufflers right here. So it's nice to get this guy off, and we got plenty of space. And then we can reach the drive shaft all the way to the engine up here and get this thing out of here. This is definitely one of the pieces I'm most excited for. And when you guys see the engine, you'll know why. After the exhaust is off, it gives me full access to the drive shaft, and it's time to get that out of the way and we're one step closer to get this engine out.
So you're gonna spew on us?
Whoa!
Don't lose that.
Drive shaft out. Now, I mean, it's about time.
Now suspension, torsion bars, and drop motor.
Send it. And this is the point where we start pulling things off until it looks completely free. These nuts and bolts are dirty and stuck from old age. I'm glad that we're going through it so that we can get everything either cleaned or replaced. That was a lot more involved than I expected, but all the suspension is loose. Now, Tim.
Now we just have a couple of things on the transmission and we can lower it down.
Subframe. God. The subframe. The engine's held in by 4 bolts. I'm gonna get these off, and while I do that, Tim will be releasing the transmission. All right, now for the moment of truth. Everything's off, it's time to lower this engine. Now the way we're doing this is kind of similar to the way that we did the Porsche and the GTR and all the cars. We are essentially going to loosen the subframe, the engine's gonna fall along with the subframe, and we'll be able to lift the car, leaving everything on the ground. That's gonna be the easiest way to get this thing out instead of removing the trans from the engine and kind of slide this out from the top. It's also a lot safer to save the paint. So if we have done everything correctly, this should just come right off. 4 bolts and she's good to go. This thing is loose as heck, dude. Oh my gosh. That's it. Hell yes, dude. Finally. That was way more of a pain in the ass than I thought it was gonna be, but we officially did it. The 4 barrels out. First major win for the build.
And looking at this, I kind of, I don't have doubts now.
No.
At all.
It's huge.
That's very big.
That's huge. That's why that fits. Speaking of that, maybe we should talk about that now. Engine's out, now it's time for the meat and potatoes. Now, as you guys know, the point of this whole build was to build my dad's dream car. And he's always dreamed of having this 1970 Dodge Challenger, but he's also dreamed of having a modern V8 Challenger. So I thought, why not give him the best of both worlds? And that's why, oh God, this is a big girl. We got him this. Say hello to our new 1970 Dodge Challenger. SRT. Say hello to our new, well, new to us, 6.4 liter, 392 Hemi that have a Challenger SRT8. Now, we were gonna get a crate engine, but unfortunately, in our time frame, it wasn't possible. The crate engines are 6 to 9 months out, so we did the next best thing. We got a engine and trans combo, which is absolutely sick. The 392 makes 485 horsepower and 475 foot-pounds of torque, and in this 1970 Dodge Challenger, that is going to be absolutely ridiculous. My dad has always dreamed of having a V8 Challenger, and even more so dreamed of having an old school classic 1970s Challenger, so this is going to be the perfect combo for the car. And paired with this 392, we also have an 8-speed automatic transmission. You might want to roast us because we could have gotten a manual, sure, but for my dad, the 8-speed auto is going to be perfect. He's not going to be doing burnouts and donuts ripping up and down the street, but he does want to drive this car daily. I say daily, he probably will drive it daily, but he does want to drive this car often for the ease of drivability. That 8-speed's gonna be really nice for him to just putt around and go to dinner, etc. It's gonna be awesome. So we got the 8-speed transmission, the 392. This thing is gonna somehow fit in that thing, right?
We got a lot of parts to possibly make that.
And yes, over the past few months, like I told you guys at the beginning of this video, we have been stacking up parts, and we think that we have everything ready to go. And now it's just a matter of putting everything onto this engine and trying to fit it into there. But honestly, Tim, why don't you wheel this over here real fast? Let's get a side-by-side comparison of the 4-barrel, because this thing is also pretty large and in charge as well, so.
Let's just put it right next to it.
Yeah,
the only thing that's different to me is the trans.
Yeah, look at this little baby auto
It's
trans.
definitely wider.
This is definitely wider, yeah. Good Lord. I mean, they're both big, but that is huge.
That's massive because that's not even on the subframe.
Oh my God. Now, any of you Dodge SRT Hemi owners out there having recommendations on what we should do to this engine while we have it kind of out right now, let us know down in the comments down below. But like I said, we pretty much have everything ready to go. It's just a matter of...
It makes me feel better because look how...
Yeah, this one's very short, and this engine's gonna sit closer to the front of the car, which means that won't have to go too far into the trans tunnel. That's the biggest worry is, will we have to cut out the trans tunnel?
From what I've seen, no. You just have to cut tabs off of the transmission itself.
We're gonna find that out. But I hope you guys are excited for the swap. I know my dad is going to poop his pants when he sees this thing, and he's not gonna get to see it until SEMA. We are flying him out for SEMA, so when this thing gets done, he can actually see it in person for the first time ever, and hopefully drive it out of the show with me. That's the whole goal, is to get this car running and driving in and out of SEMA. So with that, this is the first major step in the right direction for the Challenger build. Like I said, Tim and I have, honestly, what today's October 2nd, SEMA starts November 3rd, 4th.
Let's just say, give or take 3.5 weeks to do this because we have to get the car there. So you got to take time away.
The clock starts now while you guys are watching this. I
have something to say.
What?
If anybody wants this needs this, please contact me and I will sell it to you.
I'll put Tim's Instagram right here. Hit Tim up on Instagram and come buy this because we don't know what to do with it right now. But we have our hands full. It's time to get to work. The SRT powered 1970 Dodge Challenger starts now. Cert power, baby. Cert power.